This is the Notting Hill Carnival. Here I am on Children's Day, but there are not very many children parading. I think all Children's Day means is they don't have the samba dancers in the dental floss bikinis. So, we're in the Notting Hill area of London, the largest celebration of black culture outside of Africa. You see the crowd.
Over there, you guys make some noise right now! Urban Touch, make some noise! There what? Carnival for me! Sorry. Okay, thank you. Roger, you can see me back there. You good? You good?
Rebirth Urban Touch on the t-shirts. I'm not sure what that means. I saw people wearing Jamaica 60 years, as in 60th anniversary of independence this year. So, anyway, this started in about 1959. Claudia Jones founded it. So, the thing is, the black community established itself in the United Kingdom in significant numbers from 1948. The SS Empire Windrush landed here in July 1948 at Tilbury Docks, just east of London. So over 800 black men from various Caribbean countries, chiefly Jamaica, immigrated to the United Kingdom because then the empire was still extant, and they were all British subjects, and from anywhere in the then empire, whether it was Malaya or Canada or Nigeria or Kenya, and they all had the right to live and work in the United Kingdom unconditionally. But there was also a labour shortage just after the Second World War. There was then national service and compulsory military service for all British boys. But so those people came over, there's a bit of alarm about that. And they're first of all housed in a former bomb shelter, deep bomb shelter, at Clapham Common, London. And the nearest labour exchange, we now call a job centre, was at Cold Harbour Lane, Brixton. And so Brixton became the centre of the black community of the United Kingdom. For some of the black people, they moved to the Notting Hill area, very close to here. And there was a guy called Peter Rackman, who was a rack renter, who would let them live there because a lot of landlords were flagrantly racialist, and there was no law against racial discrimination, housing, employment, or anything else at the time. So they could say, no, I'm not letting you stay because you're black, and actually state that as the reason. But Rackman, he was a Polish immigrant right after the Second World War, and he sensed an opportunity, and if you had a sitting tenant, you couldn't raise the rent. So he'd buy up a house with sitting tenants in them, and then he would harass the sitting tenants till they left. But with the new tenants, he could whack up the rent. So charging very high rents to black people from the Antilles. But they had very little options, so they often had to, because either that or sleep on the street. But this became a bit of a centre of the black community, but there's a lot of harassment and racial violence, and a young black man was murdered near the Trevithick Tower behind Paddington Station in the 1950s. There were the Notting Hill race riots, and Sir Oswald Mosley, former leader of the British Union of Fascists, who was said that black people should not be living in the United Kingdom, he came to campaign in that North Kingston by-election, and he lost, and that was his last foray into British politics. So he said he wasn't anti-black, and then he did shared a prison cell with a black man when he was imprisoned in the Second World War. But not that he had any choice whom he shared the cell with. But anyway, so the black communities say, well, let's celebrate something positive, show what's attractive about our culture, and stand up to white supremacism, and we'll have the Notting Hill Carnival. It started with a very, very small scale thing. So Claudia Jones was from one of the Caribbean countries, I forget which one. She lived in the United States for a few years. She had no higher education, but she was a autodidactic person and highly intellectual, well, widely published journalist. She'd been deported from the United States on grounds of her communist beliefs. She came here and then she campaigned for a while, helped out this festival, and then she died. And she's buried just meters away from her idol, Karl Marx. So I think there's a Claudia Jones Memorial Hall around here. So there's a plaque outside her house. You can see the police are here in evidence. It used to be a little bit dangerous. I mean, I first attended this in about 2002. I remember hearing a gunshot here in 2007. And there were a few fights, a few stabbings, a few pickpocketings. But in recent years, it's been very, very safe. I'm not aware of any crime at all, actually. It's one of the plushest areas in London, and the people who come to the carnival often live in different parts of London, even abroad. And there are quite a few French people who come, and not just black French people as well. So there's a very racially mixed crowd, and perhaps a celebration of how far race relations have come, of how cordial it is, how intermixed people are, interracial relationships are just completely unremarkable now. So yeah, that's it. Obviously a fairly young crowd, from their teens to their maybe 30s mostly, who attend this sort of thing. But a lot of the very well-heeled residents area get out for 3 days. It's a 3-day weekend. The last weekend in August is always a 3-day weekend in this country, so the Monday is off. And they go away because it's just so noisy. If you live here, the noise goes on long into the night. And the other thing about it is there's obviously a lot of rubbish left around. They're not on our bins. They have to close the tube stations because it'd be too crowded. And obviously you can't drive around here. No buses, no public transport for 3 days. And this really is just marking the end of the summer. And obviously the weather has smiled upon us, and it's not too hot either. A little bit of cloud cover is actually welcome. So yeah, that's it. And obviously anyone can come to it, anyone can participate, but it's particularly focusing on black Caribbean culture. So the black community doesn't live in Notting Hill very much at all. In Brixton and Southwark, Lewisham, parts of the South London really, that's where the black community is more heavily concentrated. But so obviously it's not just black people. I mean, maybe 50%. And you might assume that half the population of the UK is black, judging by the people who are attending this. But obviously there are plenty of whites as well. But I would think it's particularly appealing to the black community, as it's something which really jubilates their culture. And I know that cultures are not hermetically sealed. They both transmit and receive from each other. There's cross-fertilization. So we all gain from each other. Love is multiplied, not divided, like they say. Yeah, so that's it. Okay, so if you want to know anything about Londinium, please contact me. I'll be your tour guide sometime. So thank you for watching this video. Do come to the Notting Hill Carnival one day. So it is very noisy, the very crowded place. I'm moving away from the centre of it. Okay, thank you everyone. Goodbye.